The numbers on my phone stabbed my heart like knives. Account balance, credit card debt, unpaid rent, bills piled up like small mountains. I kept telling myself, if I just work harder, I'll be free. But reality laughed. Freedom was never a reward for effort. It is a privilege for the few. I watched the notifications pop up. Dividends received. Assets appreciating. Those were other people's freedom, while I hadn't even crossed the starting line. The story I'd been fed since childhood. Work hard, and you'll get ahead. It was a lie. The real rules of the game had been set from the start. Who could breathe freely? Who would struggle? Today, I finally understood that the freedom I thought I had was nothing but a carefully crafted illusion. And I had been playing by someone else's rules all along. Most people never learn this. We inherit a clean, comforting story. Feudalism was rigid. Capitalism broke the chains. Merit replaced bloodline, trade replaced status, and ordinary people finally had room to rise. There is some truth in that story, which makes it all the more dangerous. Go back to the 16th and 17th centuries, when modern capitalism began taking a recognizable shape. Forget the image of lone innovators changing the world in their garages. The real story didn't start there. In fact, the earliest capitalist giants didn't prove that markets could thrive without concentrated power. They mostly proved the opposite. They secured monopolies. Innovation mattered, of course. Capital could be pooled. Risks could be shared. Ownership could be divided, priced, and traded. This is where the slogan cracks. We're often told capitalism emerged by freeing society from the state and old authorities. But history delivers a harsher truth. Contracts need courts. Look at land. Same story, just quieter and more private. No cannon smoke, just fences and hedges. This isn't an incidental feature of capitalism. It is foundational. Before the enclosures, many people could survive in limited but real spaces of independence. After enclosures, those spaces shrank or vanished. So, when someone says capitalism replaced inherited privilege with merit, look closer. In many early cases, the winners weren't just the smartest or hardest working. They were the ones with the legal, charter, imperial, and property advantages. Fast forward to 18th and 19th century Britain. Factories multiplied. Textile mills expanded. Steam power revolutionized production. Capital accumulation sped up. Productivity soared. Output exploded, and Britain became the world's factory. On paper, it looked like industrial-scale liberation. But step into Manchester in 1830, and it comes down to the raw numbers. 12-hour workdays meant income tied to physical labor. 14-hour days meant survival versus collapse. Paid with eyes, lungs, joints, and sleep. Add market-driven wage swings. And workers weren't just participating in freedom. They were absorbing its volatility firsthand. Where did the real gains accumulate? Owners took profits and capital appreciation. Laborers got wages. That distinction may seem dull at first, but follow the mechanism and you see why. Profits can be reinvested. Wages are usually spent. This explains extreme wealth concentration in the 19th century. Carnegie and Rockefeller weren't literally thousands of times more hardworking than millions of others. The key was their assets. Steel mills, refineries, rail networks, capital-intensive systems that produced returns beyond the limits of human labor and time. By the late 19th century, the pattern was clear. Industrial capitalism created unprecedented wealth while generating massive inequality. In America's Gilded Age, corporate power was highly concentrated. Trusts dominated industries, railroads shaped national markets, and financial capital influence rose steadily. Look at the Panic of 1873. When financial structures collapsed, decisions by financial and industrial giants rippled through the entire economy. Workers lost jobs. Farmers had to redeem collateral. This is capitalism in miniature. Free speculation, consolidation, and lending on one side, while labor bears the risk on the other. History repeats this lesson. In good times, ownership enjoys profits. They get capital gains, scale, and reinvestment. In bad times, those without property bear unemployment. They face wage pressure and collateral risk. If your income depends on wages, downturns hit your cash flow first. Yes, markets are more dynamic than rigid aristocracies, and private enterprise is more voluntary than direct state control. Innovation is visible, wealth is publicly generated and mythologized, but visibility doesn't equal symmetry. This is the hidden value hierarchy, beneath the language of opportunity. The system doesn't just reward contribution, it favors those who own productive assets. Once hierarchy solidifies, wealth is more than money. Understanding the system won't break it. The way to wrest control starts with a small action. Not a manifesto, not a 5-year plan. Open your checking account bank app. Review your spending over the last 30 days. Mark all expenses you must pay, even if income disappears. Rent, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments, medication, transport, food. This is your survival consumption. Then, do something seemingly mundane. Set up a second cash account. Do this, even if the balance is small. Give it a practical, ugly name like buffer. Set up an automatic transfer to trigger after each paycheck. Why start here? Because most people don't lack assets out of ignorance. They're simply blocked by fragility. Without a buffer, every shock becomes personal. Rising grocery prices aren't inflation. They're 2 missing items in your cart. Rent hikes aren't a macro signal. They're a tight chest, staring at the management email. The first step isn't chasing returns. It is buying time. Time is the hidden asset under all assets. A buffer gives you extra days before late fees, an extra week before a credit card bill, an extra month before desperation takes over. It turns emergencies from commands into problems you can solve. Visualize it. Write down 3 numbers: cash balance, monthly fixed expenses, and buffer days. Not goals, not forecasts, just current reality. Include small numbers, they're the ones people avoid. Add one more rule for the next 30 days. Any spending over a fixed threshold must be delayed 24 hours. The threshold is low enough to matter, high enough to be doable. The goal isn't frugality. It is separating consumption from stress. Now the math is clear. Paychecks come in installments. Costs spike all at once. Asset growth only benefits those already holding. The first countermeasure doesn't rely on cleverness. It relies on friction, automated income, delayed spending. Yes, it seems tiny, but that is the point. Real financial change often starts with the smallest, simplest steps. Transfer $40. Record 3 numbers. Delay a purchase. Once habits form, money's meaning changes. Cash isn't just gone when spent, it becomes stored choice. A gap between event and reaction, protecting you from forced sales, borrowing, or giving up, especially at the worst possible moments. Those who benefit most from volatility don't act first. They can wait, hold, refinance, restructure, extend, or ride out downturns. Those without a buffer face every shock, full on. Most financial advice is completely dishonest. It teaches investment optimization, as if the fragile had already built portfolios. But fragility changes the math. Over-leveraged people experience swings differently. Paycheck to paycheck folks experience inflation, not in charts, but in fewer groceries and delayed medical care, lingering credit card balances, and tension in their bodies. The first compounding isn't always money. It is chaos reduction, avoiding late fees compounds, lower interest compounds. One crisis avoided compounds, preserved paycheck compounds, untouched cash compounds. 3 months shifts posture. 6 months changes your risk tolerance. It isn't about fairness. It is about not losing leverage to desperation. This is sober financial freedom, not yachts, not screenshots, not portfolio performance. The system gives the biggest advantages to those with productive assets. But you can still build a personal defense layer. Small reserves, low spending, clear balance sheet, buying time before status. Ordinary steps, repeated under stress, prevent the structure from squeezing you dry. Even with surplus, no matter how small, the rules stay the same. Don't trade resilience for returns. Money that can be rescued and money that can compound have different roles. Keep them separate. Liquidity isn't failure. Safety isn't laziness. For most people, compounding begins not with a miracle, but with a buffer. So answer this carefully. If your income vanished tonight, how many days of freedom do you really have?